Good afternoon and welcome to this Municipality of Dutton Dunwich Council meeting. It is November 12th, 2025. It is 5 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order. Sarah, please.
Moved by Drouillard, seconded by Dryfout, that the meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich opens at 5 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Loveland will do the land acknowledgement.
We will begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of First Nations people who have long-standing relationships to the land, water, and region of southwestern Ontario. We also acknowledge the local Lower Thames River watershed communities, which include Chippewa of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, Munsee Delaware Nation, and Delaware Nation of Moraviantown. We value the significant historical and contributions of local and regional First Nations and all of the original peoples of Turtle Island, North America. We are thankful for the opportunity to live, learn, and share with mutual respect and appreciation.
Okay, thank you. I would remind council of any declaration of pecuniary interest. I see none. Next item is the adoption of the draft minutes from October 22nd. They were included in the agenda package. Are there any errors or omissions suggested by council? Seeing none, the minutes will be adopted as presented to council in the agenda. Tara, are there any items not listed on the agenda?
There are none.
Okay. First up, we have Graham Scott Enns, LLP, the Dutton Dunwich 2024 Consolidated Financial Statements. Rob, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So if we go to our page 2 in the financial statements, so this is our auditor's report. So this would be our comment, I guess you would say, on the financial statements. And it is a clean audit opinion, which is what you're looking for. So it is in our opinion that the municipality's consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the municipality as at December 31st, 2024, and the results of its operations and its cash flow for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. Assuming that these are approved tonight, they will be dated as well with today's date. We are required to audit up to the date of the issue of the financial statements. Also note that these are consolidated financial statements, that they do include your proportionate share of the water board. So if you go to our page 4, which is the consolidated statement of financial position. So this shows your position as at December 31st, 2024, as well as 2023 comparative. Taxes receivable are down from the previous year, and that does relate to current portion. So the current portion is lower than the previous year. So that is positive that our arrears didn't increase and our current is collected. So that's good positive news. Accounts receivable, the majority of that, 1.2 million, is water boards between your own and the consolidated entity or your proportionate share, as well as items such as drainage receivable, HST, those type of things. The drainage receivable is the main category that's down over the previous year. We do have land held for resale, similar to previous years. So total financial assets of 2.7 million. On the liability side, so we have our temporary bank advances. So that's basically you've got overall a negative working capital, which required temporary loan advances. Accounts payable and accrued liabilities up a little bit over the previous year. There were some ongoing capital projects that had not yet been paid for, sitting both holdbacks as well as regular payables at the year end. There was one entity paid back from the security deposits side of things, and our deferred revenue, our gas tax being up over the previous year. We do record, to the best of our estimates, the land closure post and post-closure liability costs, which are accruing each year and gaining based on the portion that's been used as disclosed in note 7. We did have $1.5 million of new debt that was taken on in the year, and $465,000 that was repaid from previous loans. Overall, leaving the municipality in about a $900,000 higher deficit and financial debt than it was in the year before. Just as an overall comment, compared to your peers, your long-term debt is quite a bit higher compared to your property tax base than most of your surrounding municipalities, which we've commented on in the past as well. On our non-financial assets, so we have our tangible capital assets. So as you recall, back in 2009, we started to set those up on the statement of financial position, tracking additions, and to our best estimate, the amortization of those assets each year. There were $2 million of additions in capital assets in the year, and we had approximately $1.44 million of amortization off of those assets, bringing us with a slight net increase to almost 37 million in tangible capital assets. So that brings us to a cumulative surplus of just under $32.3 million. There were no accumulated measurements, gains and losses, so that's basically a schedule that tracks. The easiest example is if you had investments in, say, the stock market, and they had gone up in value, but you had not yet sold those, we would show those as an unrealized gain. Or on the flip side, if you had similar losses had gone the other way around but hadn't physically sold them, they would be recognized there as losses. This municipality does not have any accumulated measurement of gains or losses. If we go to our next page, that's our statement of operations and accumulated surplus. So here we have a budget for 2024, as well as actuals for 2023. Please note that the budget numbers have been converted to what we call a PSAB format. So any transfers from reserves that you would typically include in revenue have been pulled out, as well as amortization has been added into those numbers to make them comparable to the way the 2024 numbers are presented, as well as 2023. So that's why you're seeing, so from an annual normal budgeting process, you did budget for a zero a year, but from a PSAB basis, it's actually a loss of $1 million, basically, is when it's converted, taking into consideration that amortization and taking out reserves, transfers, those type of things. So overall, property taxes, we did have write-offs were slightly in excess of what was budgeted for, showing us slightly under our expected property tax collection. Under user charges, we had both building permits as well as water usage, taking us above our expected budgeted revenues. Under government transfers, we did utilize some, or were able to utilize some of the gas tax, which wasn't anticipated in the budget. On the provincial side, mostly municipal drains being the difference as to why we had provincial grants in excess of what our budget was. So overall, total revenues 12.177 versus 11.266. When we look at expenditures compared to budget, we did have some costs that you would have included in your capital budget that didn't meet the definition of tangible capital assets that we would have expensed through general government, as well as some contracted services taking us above budget. Similarly, contracted costs as well, and police being over budget for fire and police protection. Transportation services, maintenance and fuel were our categories we were under budget on. Water and sewer, as mentioned above, on the revenue side, we did have water usage in excess of what we were anticipating, which we'd also see on the expense side. Health services, our cemetery costs being under our expected budgeted numbers. Recreational and cultural services, we had most categories being in excess of what our budget was for the year. And just keeping in mind, agriculture does, for the most part, relate to municipal drain type costs. So overall, on a PSAB basis, we had a deficit of 388,000. Next page is the continuity of that net financial debt. So as I mentioned, we had a $380,000 deficit. We had acquisition of tangible capital assets, which is a use of cash of 2 million, amortization of 144, which is non-use, adding that back, as well as changes in inventory and gains and losses on any sale of tangible capital assets, for an overall negative in net financial debt, or an increase of net financial debt of $1,082,000. Our next page is the statement of cash flows. So this takes us from an accrual basis back to a cash basis. Similar type of items on here as the previous page, where we're adding back amortization as a non-cash expense. We're deducting off any acquisitions of tangible capital assets. We're also seeing the issuance of the new long-term debt and the related repayment of existing long-term debt, having an overall net increase in cash of about $400,000. We then get into the notes of the financial statements, so we can zip right along here. There weren't there was one change in the revenue policy, but it didn't actually impact this municipality. So we really didn't have any changes in any accounting policies in the year affecting the financial statements. So I think if we can move forward to our page 15, note 3. So as I had mentioned, this is the breakdown of those taxes receivable by category, seeing that the current being lower, as well as arrears being slightly lower than the previous year. We did break down those trade payables as mentioned. Again, the bulk being related to water. Next page is our consolidated tangible capital assets. So this is a continuity from the original cost, any additions or disposals, and then any amortization of those assets and the various categories. Won't go into too much detail there. The next page is the same thing, just for the previous year. I think if we move forward to our page 19, note 8, one thing to note is you did implement the development charges in the year, and we did start to set those aside. So those are not considered a revenue until they're physically applied to the related charge that was set up. So, within your development charge study, there would be specific projects that would be identified that you're collecting for. And as you take on those projects, you can remove from those funds to help offset the growth component of those capital expenditures. Next page, page 20, is that continuity of the long-term debt. The main thing I find is informative is to look at where those are to be recovered from. So the top line being from your general tax revenue base, the other being from user charges, typically water and sewer. Page 21, note 11. So this is the breakdown of that cumulative surplus. So, I always like to mention, obviously, you don't have an annual surplus of $32.3 million. Obviously, the vast majority of that is actually, or more than that, is actually invested in tangible capital assets. And then we're seeing deficits in both your annual deficit benefiting landowners would be tile drain for the most part that's owed to the municipality. And then we've got our reserve set aside as also a component of that surplus, less any liabilities, giving us the 32.3 million. And then below that, the breakdown of the various reserves. our note 15, page 23. So as I mentioned, this is a PSAB adjusted budget that we're showing in the statement of operations. This was your approved budget, as noted, coming to zero as required by the Municipal Act. And then the various adjustments that we're making in order to convert it to a PSAB format financial statement. I think those were the main categories I wanted to hit on the financial statements. I would be happy to take any questions if there are on the physical financial statements.
Okay, thank you for that report, Rob, and I'm sure there will be questions. It's not a rosy picture.
It's there, your debt component is definitely high and has continued to grow as you've funded your capital projects. And at some point that will not be able to continue, and you will need to determine whether that's through additional tax increases or a reduction in capital spending. But overall, yeah, that particular process isn't going to be sustainable in the future.
And we're kind of painting ourselves into a corner on, we have some large capital items that we have to deal with this year, next year, and we don't have any wiggle room.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem as your debt capacity grows compared again to your rate base. It does handcuff you when it comes to being a lot of times being able to take advantage of government funds or just emergency projects that need to be addressed.
Yeah. Any further questions from council? Either everybody's in shock or they're asleep. Or both.
I'm never quite sure whether the silence is, I did a good job of answering everyone's questions or whether everyone fell asleep and I just went right over their head. But I always try to pick the first one. I'm not always sure I'm right.
No, I think everybody's awake. They're
Through your
really trying to understand the gravity of the situation.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah,
ahead,
could I-
Councilor Drulard.
Oh, sorry, Bree. Oh, yeah, thank you for the report. I think we're all aware of the situation and, the gravity of it and of course, what we're facing as a municipality. And I think we're trying to find solutions to figure this thing out. So I don't think we're not aware. I think this just drives it home even more. Every year I've sat and listened to you. This is just taking it to another level, and getting a firm understanding. But it's really hard when we have lacked in capital developments in the municipality and we're catching up, and it's a dual thing that we're battling here. So we're trying to figure that part out, short of taxes going so high that we can't turn back, right? So I don't know what the answer is, to be honest with you, right at this point. We're working it out.
Yeah, I mean, there is lots of things that result in this coming to this particular position, obviously. But I mean, one of the bigger issues all municipalities are facing is that a lot of the capital work was done in the 50s and 60s. It was funded by the most part by federal and provincial government spending. And maybe the fact that we assumed, councils assumed as time went on that that would be the case going forward, or whether because the tangible capital assets weren't there being recognized and shown as being amortized, that maybe you should be setting aside those funds for replacement down the road. In addition to also in your budgeting process, like a cumulative impact of say you were going to do a 5% and you did a 4% increase, that 1%, trying, especially if you were not able to change expenditures or however you funded that 1% decrease, cumulatively, that's not there the next year and it's not in the year after that. And over a 10-year period, that really has a negative impact on what funds you have available. And I think that approach is gotten a few municipalities in trouble over the years as well.
Further to that, is there a, you deal with, or you work with a lot of, or I'm assuming you work with other municipalities, is there a relationship between municipal size, revenue base, and, for example, Dutton Dunwich, we're a smaller community with less or lower commercial tax rate, tax base, or industrial? Is there a relationship between that and other municipalities?
Well, I think, obviously the fewer commercial industrial type properties that you have on makes it more difficult. That does force any tax hikes, any additional funds you're trying to raise back specifically right into the taxpayers' hands. But at the same time, we look at, say, the municipality of Bam, who had that unfortunate issue with the submarine. They worked very diligently. They had some pretty hefty tax hikes, but they made the effort, and everybody's put the sweat equity in, so to speak, to get on the other side of that. And so now, again, feeling that pain, working through it, they've got in a position where that is in the tax rates. They are able to use those funds going forward to, help recover from that position that it put them in. I would say they're fairly comparable as far as having limited commercial base, mostly a farm based a municipality. And yeah, there was 6, 7, 8% tax hikes in some of those years. And I guess one thing they did look at as well a little bit to get over the hump was were there surplus assets of the municipality that could be sold to help fundraise as well. Is there land that you haven't used that's sitting there, things that might be able to be surplus assets at the end of the day. It wasn't a huge component, but it was a component of their plan.
Okay, Tony, you have some comments.
Through you, your worship, thank you, Rob, for the presentation today, and also thank you for your team completing the audit. It's always a good exercise to go through and ensuring that all our information meets what the auditors are looking for. So this year, we've started to look at where our current situation is. Administration has looked at that, and back to your comment about that 1%. It has an impact cumulatively over the number of years if you keep it at those rates. That is an issue. We do identify that, and going forward, we need to look at how we're going to address that. This year, as part of our budget process, we started called a zero-based budgeting. As you know, we started at zero. We wanted to build those budget numbers in those departments to see exactly what's needed and what we are able to trim. So this year's budget is going to be interesting. We're going to be able to provide council with some options of how aggressive they want to get with the debt. If you leave it at status quo, this is what it's going to look like in 5 to 10 years. If you want to be more aggressive, it's a commitment that you would have to take. We found other things that we have to start planning for. So we've started putting some measures in place that before something breaks, we have started putting some money aside for those situations, life cycle costing, and looking at how we're able to plan for those rainy days. So it can't turn the ship in 1 year. It takes the time, as you know. But once you build those fundamentals and how we're going to start moving in that direction, I believe we're going to get there. It's just going to be a matter of for the next few years to navigate through the rough waters and getting us to. But back to the mayor and other comments, it's difficult when you're a small municipality. You still have responsibilities. Anything that comes your way, you have to respond to it. And there's times where you have to pay external legal consulting, whatever the case is. But that's part of doing your business. Whether you're small or you're large, you still have to pay those expenses. So we're starting to put some measures in place to kind of get us more on the fiscally responsible and looking at how we can start turning that page and turning that chapter.
Excellent. Obviously, recognizing that something different is needed and taking an approach. And you're right, it's not going to be something you can fix in 1 year by any stretch of the imagination. But little steps, as long as they're forward steps, are positive, right? For sure. There was one other report that we would normally discuss, I guess, at this meeting, and that's what we call our audit findings letter. So these statements are we'll call it our stamp on the financial position. The audit findings letter is on the internal controls and management of the municipality. So we didn't have any issues with management not answering questions or providing information. There were no what we call unrecorded errors that we found, where we found something that we felt needed to be adjusted and management wasn't willing to do that. So we didn't have any issues in that regard. Our testing of controls all showed that the controls were functioning as documented. So we didn't have any issues there as well. So from that standpoint, we would also say the controls around the financial statements are functioning as they have been designed.
Okay. It will be an interesting budget. And I'll say it, I think everything's on the table, even service levels. It's things we have to do that we must do, but everything else is out there. I also want to comment, James, 2024 wasn't yours, but great work pulling it all together and meeting with the auditors. So thank you for that. 2025 is yours. Okay. Anything further from council for Rob? Thank you, Rob.
You're
And thank
welcome.
you for your honesty.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's
What we do. We will deal with that resolution during James' report for the auditor's report. Okay, thank you, Rob. Okay, moving on to the drainage department, and the information was in your agenda package, and we have a request to abandon a section of the J Leach drain by the landowner. So is there any discussion warranted on that thing? I think it's clear to me, but or if you had any questions, certainly Brent was available to answer, but okay, we're good with that one. Carol, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report from the drainage superintendent titled Request to Abandon a Section of the J Leach Drain by Landowner, dated November 12th, 2025 for information, and that council intends to abandon under section 84 the Drainage Act to the portion of the J Leach Drain bylaw 2017-14 from station 0+00 to station 0+140 in concession 1 south part of lot 4, and that council instructs the clerk to send notice of its intention to abandon a portion of the J Leach drain to all affected landowners. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. Down to correspondence. Town of Plimpton, Wyoming, a resolution freeze on conservation authority fees. Any comments on that? I think the script's yet to be written on this conservation authority thing, so I don't know what your resolution says, but let's hear it anyway.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the town of Plimpton, Wyoming, urging the province of Ontario to reconsider the fee freeze mandate to implement a funding framework that protects municipal taxpayers from cost recovery deficits while supporting a sustainable and balanced approach to conservation authority financing, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Andrew Lawton, MP, and the town of Plimpton, Wyoming.
Okay, we'll hold the question. Deputy Mayor Loveland, do you want to comment on this?
No, I support that resolution. I'll make some comments when we get to the Conservation Authority meeting that I attended.
Okay, go ahead.
All in favor? And that's carried.
The next item is we have correspondence from Vergeer Brokenshire, and it was just for clarification and a bylaw exemption. Now, there were 4 questions. And does council wish to further that, or Tony, maybe you could comment on this one? They are asking for specific 4 questions answered, and I just,
Sure.
who could answer them for them?
Through your worship, thank you for the question. As it relates to the wastewater project, next council meeting, you will be receiving a report detailing the next phase of the tendering process of which contractor was selected. As we get closer, we'll have more accurate timelines as it relates to when this project will be completed. So right now, we are looking for the spring, June, July timeframe. But again, qualifying that until we're able to have the tender close, review the results, come back to council to ensure that's being done. In the interim, we are also working on any measures that we need to take in place as this is happening during the winter months. And if we have some times where it is going to be higher temperatures and colder temperatures than we normally are used to, we're taking those type of situations and putting some contingency plans in place of how they're able to complete the work during those colder times as well. Also, too, there will be a report coming back from the county with regards to the holding bylaw. That's something that was tabled over 30 days ago, and that's something that's going to be coming back for review. And at that time, council can ask the county if there's any specific questions on those particular areas. So again, in summary, we're getting closer to getting more information. As we start getting information from the contractors, from Dillon Consulting, we're providing it back to council so they're aware of, as we're moving closer and closer to that deadline, we will have a solution in the spring, summer of 2026.
Thank you for that. Anything further from council? Councillor Drulard.
I had spoken to these Mr. Vergeer and Mr. Brokenshire, just for some clarification on this, and they did send me an email, which I have forwarded to Tony. Just because these contractors do live and work, and I wanted to know what they were specifically asking for. It's a bit vague. So I did have a conversation with Tony, and I have forwarded that information to him. They live, they work, and they invest in our community. So just that we're in constant communication and working with these contractors to move forward would be it.
Councillor Dreyfus.
Through you, Mayor Hens, appreciate the letter that was sent, and of course, obviously, it's a tough situation for everybody involved, and especially for the developers where they have so much money invested. But I can't help but go back and look at the what I'm feeling is the primary cause of some of this, some of these issues, and the right, looking, and this can be later on in our wastewater report, we have a 69 per, we're running at 69% capacity, which means there is capacity. There technically is capacity. Councillor Drulard brought it up at our previous council meeting that we obviously have a stormwater situation, and whatever the percent of tolerance is, whether it's 10% or 12% or whatever, I don't know what the standard is, but that would put us at like, even we've had a bit more rain this past month, but that would put us at a 79% capacity rate, which actually is still doable when you look at the big picture. So my concern is that when we had discussed and we've been a little bit proactive in educating our community, but I really feel that this has cost our developers a lot of money and a lot of opportunity for housing development and growth in our community. And I think we need to step up the approach to our community, even if it means going door to door with a flyer and passing it into their hands, getting students to do it or doing something, and then giving them a opportunity to call your local plumber or call somebody to see if they don't know what's going on. Are you actually dumping water into our wastewater system? And giving them a timeline, of 3 months to pursue whether they could even investigate it themselves and offer the opportunity for our municipal employees to have a look if they wish to do so. At least we're being somewhat proactive. I'm not saying we're not trying. But I think we've got to step it up and figure out a way to get to our community, because I think half of our community is oblivious to it. And I do know of situations where they have called in professionals to investigate whether there is water. And I know of 4 situations where the public has actually repaired it and fixed it. So I think it's time for our community to get involved and to do something about this as well. I feel very strongly about it, especially since we've had 3 or 4 months of dry weather. So.
Yeah, and just further to that, this is impacting how they do business, and we need to be communicating. They need to have something tangible. They need to have some sort of tangible information, because it is impacting how they are doing their business. And not just that developer, but all of the developers, but
There is a specific ask in this letter to council. 5 questions, and I guess, and I know, Nicole, you're listening, and I'll leave it at that, but reach out to our CAO, Tony, and we will get you answers for each one of your questions on your letter. And some of it may be planning, but we will answer your questions. Go ahead, Councillor Pemberton.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Henson, through you. Yeah, you know, I agree with everything Councillor Drouillard and Dreyfus were saying. I mean, we've asked for education programs and we have started some, so that's great. I've seen other municipalities, similar to what Councillor Dreyfus was talking about, offer a assistance program to disconnect from if you have stormwater going there. I've seen other municipalities create bylaws that you can't discharge your rainwater leaders underground. They have to go on ground, so that, you know, you can go along and, oh, hey, your eave trough is connected to a storm pipe. Sorry, it's got to come out, and try and find results that way. I'm not going to beat that one up too much, because I think we've discussed it and we've asked for it several times. So hopefully we're still working on that. I do want to comment on the holding zone, just because I said it before, so I want to make sure I say it again. I don't agree with the holding zone on lots that are in a registered plan of subdivision. I think there's got to be a different way to approach this, so our developers don't have to go through another planning process because of circumstances that were beyond their control. So I just wanted to reiterate that that was my position on that, because they mentioned it. So, and I have had a conversation with the planner about this off to the side, because that's what we were asked to do, is if we had questions. So I talked to the planner about it. I made my feelings known, but I wanted to make my feelings known again. I don't support the holding program on plan. I accept it on new and things that aren't developed. That's fine. I understand that. I just don't accept it on plans that are previously registered. I do understand the necessity to not allow them to have permits until we have capacity, or when we have capacity, or when we have a plan for capacity. But there's got to be a way to word something so they don't have to go through the expense of a planning process, the time of a planning process, and all the rest of that that goes along with it. So that's my thoughts, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
I've also like to express my support for the other council members' comments. We've talked about this a long time. We've asked for training. It took quite a while, but we have some. I know I've talked in the past about doing some testing, and I still think that needs to be done. And I agree with the capacity. I don't know. I mean, as we sit here over the last 6 months, we really haven't had that much our capacity, I think, for this year is running about 71%. And I know we did have some problems and we had really wet weather, but I don't think we were the only ones that had that problem. So I think we maybe have overacted a bit on taking some of uh, the positions we have, but nonetheless, we watch that, I guess, and see what happens. I really think we need to get some of these developers back on page and going again. They have some money invested and we need the growth, so.
Anything further? Okay. Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drillard, that correspondence item 8B from Derek and Nicole Vergier and Russ and Maria Brokenshire is received by the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich, and that council places this inquiry and request in the hands of staff for reply. All in favor? And that's carried.
Tara, please.
Moved by Drillard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the 2025 second quarter system operations report from the Ontario Clean Water Agency be received and filed. All in favor? And that's carried.
I'm not going to go through it again. Any other comments from council on that? Resolution, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the township of Stone Mills requesting the provincial and federal governments establish a dedicated fund to assist municipal governments, private organizations, and property owners in effectively managing the removal and replanting of trees, thereby addressing the aftermath of the emerald ash borer infestation. And that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Andrew Lawton, MP, and the Township of Stone Mills. All in favor? And that's carried.
Next one is City of Brampton, the provincial decision on automated speed enforcement. Anyone who wish to jump in on that one? No comments? Okay, Tara, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the city of Brampton opposing the province's decision to abruptly cancel automated speed enforcement cameras, ASE, a public safety tool enabled through provincial regulations in December 2019. And that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Andrew Lawton, MP, and the city of Brampton. All in favor? And that's carried.
Town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury, removal of the HST GST from new homes to support housing affordability. Any council comments on that? See none? Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drillard, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury, calling on the government of Canada to remove the GST HST from all new homes purchased as primary residences and to work in partnership with the government of Ontario to ensure full elimination of the provincial portion as well. And that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Andrew Lawton, MP, and the town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury. All in favor? And that's carried.
City of Brantford, Provincial support for the Ontario Airport Capital Assistance Program. Go ahead with the resolution, please, Karen.
Do you want to do the town of East Gwillimbury first?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the town of East Gwillimbury expressing serious concerns with the Protect Ontario by Unleashing Our Economy Act 2025 as it interferes with local planning, limits public consultation, is inconsistent with the principles of free, prior and informed consent in consultation processes with Indigenous communities, and weakens protections to heritage and species, and formally opposes the Protect Ontario by Unleashing Our Economy Act 2025 in its current form, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Andrew Lawton, MP, and the town of East Gwillimbury.
Just before you call a question, were there any comments on that one from council? I got ahead of myself here, so go ahead.
All in favor? And that's carried.
Now, City of Brantford, provincial support for the Ontario Airport Capital Assistance Program. Go ahead with the resolution, Tara, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the city of Brantford urging the government of Ontario to implement the Ontario Airport Capital Assistance Program managed by the Ministry of Transportation, adopt the recommended cost-sharing structure 75% provincial, 25% municipal or operator, and cap funds at $2 million per project per applicant, expand eligibility to include public use registered aerodromes and certified airports not currently eligible for ACAP, reinstate the Ontario Air Advisory Panel to advise on airport infrastructure and policy priorities, designate community and regional airports as critical infrastructure under provincial policy, investigate stable funding mechanisms such as dedicated stream from the aviation fuel tax to support OACAP sustainably, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Andrew Lawton, MP, and the city of Brantford. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, finish it up.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that relevant correspondence was reviewed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. The consent agenda, let's break it up here. We'll go from 1 to 10. Does council wish to speak to any one of those items?
Through your mayor Hens.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess, just trying to find which one it was. I think it was from the warden's newsletter. Am I in the right area here? So just a comment, three counties were recognized, specifically for having well thought out, official plans and business websites. Norfolk County was given an award, Essex County for official plan, and Wellington County for a home energy toolkit. So 3 specific areas that they've targeted. But it's interesting when I look at the plans, they really refer to having municipalities or counties with a vision. And I just wanted to make note of that in this council. That goes back to our Cultivating Success event and the main topic of discussion there. So if you have an opportunity, look at their sites and you'll begin to see a clear and concise vision for the county, which I think is kind of interesting for us to learn from. So just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention.
Thank you for those comments. Anything else on items 1 to 10? I would just comment on, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councilor.
That's all right. I was going to comment on number 7, from the Minister of Finance. It's nice to see it's a small increase, but it was nice to see an increase in the OMPF funding.
I would just like to comment on 4 and 8 and Watson Associates for providing that information. They break down these bills that even I can understand or make sense out of them, because the way the government puts them out, I don't. So thank you for that to Watson and Associates. Nothing else? Okay, let's go to committee reports. We have the Economic Development Committee, Elgin Primary Water System, Lower Thames Valley, and Tri-County Water Board, and the Bo Horvat Community Center Board of Management. And I know Deputy Mayor Loveland, you have comments on a number of them.
I've got 3 reports on there, so I'll try not to talk too long here. I guess the first one is the Elgin Area Water Board. At the last meeting, the board did approve their budget for 2026. It had a 3.5% increase in the wholesale cost of water, and that was what was in our long-term financial plan that should be implemented. I think the other thing that was discussed at that meeting was the new information that we received on the industrial developments that are happening in Central Elgin or St. Thomas now, I guess. And they had received some new information on the amount of water that those 2 plants that have been announced, and there's a third one coming. They those 3 plants are going to need a huge amount of water. It's, I think, 36 million liters a day, which really is about the same as that plant is selling right now at the current time. So the board did make the decision to go ahead and start an EA process. As we know, those EA processes take a lot longer than everyone thinks they're going to. They figure it might be 10 years before they have the actual plant improved. So one of the things that there was an article in the paper and on the news the other night, so I just wanted to kind of mention that to everyone so they're aware of it and get the true information. The area water board is like all those area water boards around. They can't borrow any money. They don't have that ability the way they're set up. So the municipalities who take water will be required to, if we don't get funding, and they have sent a letter off to a couple of the ministries to request some assistance. Hopefully that'll come. And they do have some reserves set aside. The effect on us is fairly minimal because we draw 0.13% of the water out of the system. It's fairly small. But if it is a $400 million plant and nothing changed, we don't get any funds and we don't have any reserves, we could be asked to borrow $500,000. So just sort of now that doesn't mean that our taxpayers have to pay that, though that money would come back out of the water rate. Hopefully we won't have to do that, but I just wanted everyone to sort of realize what that effect was and where we're going. So
Yep, keep on going. You had a number of.
Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority. At the last meeting, of the board, we discussed where we're going with our 2026 budget. And we're a little later doing that than we normally would be, because we had a consultant looking at employee remuneration, and that report has come back to council. So what they are proposing is to come up with a budget, and we'll work on that probably at the December meeting. It's going to, last year we sort of had a 2% increase for operating costs. a 1% increase to start implementing asset management, and they're proposing the same sort of thing for this year. But the implementation of the employee study they did would increase the assessments a further 9.6% if we implement that over a 1-year period. So what that would affect to us is that for next year, our levy would go up to around $73,000 from 64,000. That's a 13.16% increase. Now some of the other municipalities may push to have that implemented over a couple-year period. I supported getting it done and getting the staff paid in a reasonable manner. But if we do it over 2 years, it would drop our levy by a couple $1,000s next year and would be added on the year coming ahead. So probably the general manager of the Conservation Authority will be attending a meeting shortly and kind of go over that. But I think the more important thing that happened since that meeting is the province has announced that they're making some further changes in the Conservation Authority. They're implementing an agency that's province-wide that will actually kind of have some input in controlling the conservation authorities. And they're going to look at reducing the number of conservation authorities from 36 down to 7. My concern is Lower Thames has been fairly frugal in how they operate and how they what they charge us to do. We have an agreement with them. If we amalgamate like they're talking, we'll be in, I'm sure, with Lower Thames and Upper Thames and a few more conservation authorities, all which have significantly higher rates. So that long-term change may have a greater impact on us in the future than this year's budget will. Yes, and I'm sure Mark Peacock will go down and talk to us both about the budget and these proposed changes once he understands it a little better.
Yeah, just a question, Deputy Mayor Loveland. How do you prepare a budget with what's going on?
That's been difficult, not only this year, but for the last 3 years at the Conservation Authority, because there's been so many changes that the province has requested. And they're requiring staff to make these changes very quickly. We had to redo all of our policies this year and change how we operated. Considerable amount of time and effort has gone into that and costs. So yeah, I don't know how long that will take. They say next year the conservation authorities will operate like they are today, basically. It's going to take a while to implement some of these changes, and there will be an opportunity to comment on those changes, and maybe it won't be quite as bad as we think once we know a bit more information. I do have a copy of the proposed changes to the Conservation Authorities Act. I've tried to read it, but it puts me to sleep. So I'll do that a few times before I can get through it all and half understand it. So yeah, it's a difficult time for conservation authorities, and they say no staff changes, but I can't see that there won't be some.
So what do we do in Dutton Dunwich? But James is working on his budget right now. Do we have a number?
Yeah, I've met with James and Tony and gone over where we're at. And I think my recommendation is to go ahead and approve the budget for 1-year implementation. That may change, and council could change that if they want and do it over 2 years. Would not be surprised if some of the other municipalities request that as well. So we will have a better look at that at the December meeting. But yeah. A little more of an increase than we wanted to see, but
We've had a lot of good news at this meeting, Deputy Mayor Loveland.
I ain't finished.
Keep going, you're on a roll.
Okay. This one isn't quite so bad. Bo Horvat Community Center, we had a meeting this morning, and you had the minutes from the previous meeting. We haven't we haven't looked at our 2026 operations and capital budget yet. And that's basically due to some staff shortages in West Elgin. We did get a financial statement up to the end of March at the meeting this morning. Things look fairly well in line. But I don't see that there may even be a little bit of a surplus there from what we budgeted. Our capital that we had included in this year's budget, some of it will be put forward to next year. The dehumidifier came in considerably less than we had in our budget. It cost us 112,000. We had 240,000 in reserves there for that, which is good news. So again, I've had some discussions with James about where we should go. I think we're looking at doing a 5% increase over last year's operating and capital, and maybe putting a little bit in reserves for that as a first start at the budget. Again, we did talk a bit this morning about where we're going with the other improvements to the arena. We do have that money sitting there from the Craft Hockeyville, but we're kind of trying to figure out if we can scale that back a bit and make it affordable. So that's something we'll talk about. Any questions on all three of those? I'm happy to try to answer them. If not, that's all the bad news I have for you.
One question, I noticed in some correspondence that they were selling off some of the equipment in the food booth. Was that true? Is that still operating?
The food booth itself hasn't operated for over I think since COVID. They've for 2 years now, they've have not this year, but the last 2 years, they've requested proposals for someone to run the food booth, and they haven't really had any interest in it at all. So I think the plans, the way they were drawn up, was that the food booth would be removed to make the warm room a little larger. And they may put some vending machines in, but to be quite truthful, most people come into the arena with a Tim Hortons coffee in their hand anyway, so there's just no money in the food booth.
It's not a moneymaker anyway, is it? Any questions on those rosy reports? None? Okay. Let's go to the staff reports. They're all in front of you. Anyone wish to speak to any one of those?
No.
Nothing?
I just noticed that there hasn't been a fire report, a monthly report for several months, so I'm just hoping that maybe we'll get an update sometime soon.
Okay. We will reach out. Nothing further on the staff reports? Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drillard, that the items on the consent agenda be approved. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And Tara, you have a report. You wish to add further to what's included in the agenda? Are there any questions of Tara? Don't see any, so. Go ahead, Tara.
Moved by Drillard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the clerk titled 2026 council meeting schedule dated November 12th, 2025 for information, and that council approves the 2026 council meeting schedule as follows: January 14th and 28th at 5 p.m., February 11th and 25th at 5 p.m., March 11th and 25th at 5 p.m., April 8th and 22nd at 5 p.m., May 13th and 27th at 5 p.m., June 10th and 24th at 5 p.m., July 15th at 4 p.m., August 12th at 4 p.m., September 9th and 23rd at 5 p.m., October 14th at 5 p.m., November 11th at 5 p.m., November 18th, time to be determined for the inaugural meeting of the new council, November 25th at 5 p.m., December 9th at 5 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. And the treasurer's report. First on the agenda is the high water leak adjustment policy, and James presented that at the last council meeting, and it's in your agenda package. Do you wish to comment further, James, or?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a new policy being brought forward. It's policy to cover some of the expenses that homeowners, ratepayers may have with a leak in their residential or farm buildings. It's a one-time forgiveness and it's capped at a certain dollar amount. They'll have to provide proof that leak has been repaired. If need be, we can send somebody out to make sure. There's certain thresholds that they have to meet in order to qualify for this program. So it's not just I have a leak, I need some money back. It's
Okay, thank you, James. Nothing from council on that? Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the acting treasurer titled High Water Leak Adjustment Policy dated November 12th, 2025 for information, and that council approve the high water leak adjustment policy F03008 effective January 1st, 2026. All in favor? And that's carried.
And you have an employee wage COLA adjustment. Council has had a chance to look at that, but you wish to comment further, James?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in preparation of the 2026 budget, we're just looking to get council approval on the cost of living adjustment for all hourly and salaried employees within the municipality. As you know, back in 2020, council approved a policy where it states that the Ontario CPI is used as a basis for any cost of living adjustment. The low end being 75% of it, the high end being 125% of it. CPI this year, as of September 2025, was 2.4%. So what I'm looking at here is recommending that council approve 100% of the CPI. By doing that based on the number of hours worked and that were budgeted for 2025, it would be an increase to our wages of just under 92,000.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Dreyfus.
Yeah, just a few comments. These are always really, I find difficult conversations to have, and not one to hold back on paying people what their value is. And so don't take me the wrong way when I express my concerns. The cost impact to the municipality will be nearly 100,000. And if we can justify that cost, I have no issue with it. When we look at the core CPI, it's 2.46 as of today. I follow the core CPI in my personal life because I am involved in some other stuff that affects that. But at the end of the day, it's 2.4%, but we had a low of 1.65%, 1 point this year. And when I average out the value, it's about 2.1%. So I guess I'm not discouraging looking at an increase. I think everybody is justified, but we have a large majority of our population is actually getting decreases in their wage levels. and being terminated from jobs. And I'm not sure what the answer is here, but I think we should look at a slightly lower level, especially since our budget is affected. Um, the other aspect to this is there was a comment that to bring us in line with the increase in salaries, the market surveys. So we haven't seen any of that. We haven't seen any market surveys as a council and where we fit into that category. So that remark alone, it doesn't carry any weight with me in the sense of looking at the big picture. So I guess I'll go along with the will of council, whatever you choose. I'm okay with it. But the imparity is where I find imparity in this approach is or disparity is when you have a higher salaried employee at anywhere from 130 to let's say 160. That's a swing of $3,600 where the people that really need it the most are in that lower category of $65,000 or 70,000. There's a $1,300 or $1,500 difference in cost of living increase. So I understand education. I understand contributions to jobs. I understand all that kind of stuff, ability, skill levels, everything else. But this formula alone doesn't sit well with me. And that's just my honest opinion. I'm not sure what we can do about it. If it's a policy, if it's a policy, if it's a matter of reducing the percentage, we can look at that. And if it's 2.4, then it's 2.4. But I just wanted to express my concern. It's still $100,000 to our municipal budget. So.
Councillor Pemberton.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Henson. Yeah, I guess I don't totally disagree. I will say I'm okay with the 2.4% for this year. It was brought forward in budget to bring those market studies back, so I also don't want to fall behind what our competitors are, because then we will lose good employees no matter where in the scale they are. And I'd be concerned that we would fall behind because I know what other municipalities are looking at for giving at this point in time, and it's probably fairly close to this. So I'm okay with the 2.4%, but I know we kind of weren't overly impressed with the price of how much a wage review would cost. But I think Tony's looking at some other options and maybe partnering with other neighbors that are looking at doing it. So hopefully we can get the cost down in that a little bit and do a fair market study to see where our employees are sitting and make sure that they're being paid fairly. Because I think at the end of the day, I think that's what we all want, is to make sure that our staff are being paid properly. So I'm okay with the 2.4 for this year, but yeah, I'd be interested to see what those markets bring back.
Anything else? Tony, go ahead.
Through your worship, just to add the additional comments on the market survey, as part of our budget review, we are looking at doing it at a cost-effective measure. We're doing it internally. We're not looking at hiring a consultant, trying to save some money there. I have reached out to neighboring municipalities and some of the work that they're currently doing. One is also doing it internally. We've had some discussions around the CAO table that we're looking at potentially creating a database of these wages, so they'll be available. So this way, as neighboring municipalities go out, there's also another option. They could look at some of our values that we're going to be kind of creating a database of salaries. So this way, instead of paying externally, so we're looking at different options and obviously looking at the most cost-effective option that won't be any additional dollars to the municipality.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Lovely.
I guess I'm like Council Pemberton. I've been on both sides of this issue. And I think we have to be careful that this day and age, we have to, I know we want to control our expenses, but I can support this increase. I think we have to keep our employees reasonable. And I think from what I hear, other municipalities, this is not out of line. So.
Okay, I just a comment, and James, you've done your homework here. You've got the previous year's increases listed here, and for 2 years, we were below CPI, so that means for them 2 years, they've lost a little ground, didn't keep up with inflation. So I can support the 2.4. I'm comfortable with that. Anything further on that report? And yeah, it's an unfair system, Councillor Dreyfus. The high wage earners get a bigger increase.
I'll just make a comment. The cost of inflation goes up the same for every person. Whether you're making 60 grand or 150,000, the same cost is applied to that person. So my argument has been and always will be, that's my position, that if it's costing them $1,500 a year to live, more to live, it's the same for the person that's making 150 as it is for the 65,000. So in my opinion, the lower wage earners, all the documentation we've had from every single municipality all year has been the request for the province to increase the ODSP, all the minimum wage levels from $15 to $17.25. It's all an effort to make living comfortable for people in our country. In this case, those people that are in higher income levels are making $3,500 more when the cost of living has actually cost them $1,500 more. So that's my argument. And the way the wage gap is spreading out, it's a fact. It's happening in the US and it's happening in Canada as well. So my position is that I will support the 2.4% because I do care about the people that work for us. That's the bottom line. And whatever that takes to make them happy, I'm comfortable with that. So.
Okay. Good discussion. Tara, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the acting treasurer titled Employee 2026 Wage COLA Adjustment dated November 12th, 2025 for information, and that council pre-approved the COLA of 2.4% based on 100% of September 2025 Ontario CPI for the 2026 budget and be applied to employee wages effective January 1st, 2026. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, and we have September 30th, 2025 financial report. It's in your agenda package. James, do you wish to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as we can see, overall, things are running pretty close. There's some things that are over as of September 30th, but for the most part, each summary sheet shows around the 70 to 75% of our budget has been achieved as of end of quarter 3.
I thought it looked pretty good. Any further comments or questions from council? Just got to bring it on home.
Just make one comment. I think this is a good system we have now that we can watch our expenses a lot better than we could in the past. And I know James has done quite a bit of work setting this up, so I appreciate that.
It was good to see some of the capital come in under budget as well, so we'll see what you do with them dollars. We have a place for it. Okay, nothing further from council? Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drouillard, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the acting treasurer titled September 30th, 2025 financial report dated November 12th, 2025 for information. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, we're going to deal with the audited financial statements. Do you wish to speak to them as well? I think we got the picture, but
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, yes, as just building on what Rob from Graham Scott and Ends presented earlier. Just, taxes receivable and our other accounts receivable are down. Unfortunately, we incurred some more long-term debt in 2024. And also, we did have a deficit of about just under 113,000. That mostly consists of unfunded capital from the repairs to here to this building, and also the fire truck there. While we incurred debt on that, we did not take out enough debt to cover all the expenses on it. So between the two, about 99,000 of that 113 was unfortunately not covered.
okay. Thank you, James. Any questions on that? Resolution, please, Tara.
Moved by Drillard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the acting treasurer titled 2024 Consolidated Financial Statements dated November 12th, 2025, and that council approve the 2024 Consolidated Financial Statements of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich as presented by Graham Scott and Ends LLP. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Think from you, Tony. Other staff reports. Okay. We have the Municipal Grants Program Policy Extension. I think that one is yours, James.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there was a error in reporting the closing date of this year's grants deadline. When they're mailed out, we let them know in the emails that it was November 30th, when in fact on the grant applications, it states September 30th. So we're just asking for a one-time extension of those grant applications to be received by the end of this month.
Okay. Sounds fair. No further comments? Tara, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the Recreation and Administrative Assistant titled Municipal Grant Program Policy Extension dated November 12th, 2025 for information, and that council approves and supports the extension of the due date for the municipal grant applications to November 30th, 2025. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you, James. Any unfinished business? Any new business? Councilor Dreyfus.
Yes, I'm not sure where to go with this, but I just wanted to bring up that and I think it's going to be a level of concern as we move forward. At the property that's being it's applied for the zoning change for the brewery, there's a request for part of the zoning amendment or condition is a parking study, and I'm just wondering if the municipality has ever completed a parking study on our main street. If it's something, I don't even know if it's something that we do or should pursue. There's a lot of like, if I look at the main street in general, so you have that building, you have everything on the right side. For example, the building, the 166 Curry has 4 apartments when it's complete, and it's going to have 2 commercial spaces with no parking, period. Then there's the building that I own has the commercial space, the apartment, 2 parking spaces required plus employees. So there's 3 or 4, and basically 1 parking space. Where the old bank was, there's 0 parking spaces. And then where the brewery is going to be with a 30-seat capacity building, how many parking spaces is that going to take to accommodate? Then there's the other side of the road where the former Village Crier, no parking spaces. And then the land owned behind it is private. So it's a really tough situation we're in as a municipality. So I don't know where we can go with this and how we can assist the person that, that's going for the zoning change in this process, so.
Tony, you can comment on that one.
Thank you through you, your worship. As it relates to parking, that's definitely something that we don't have a lot of in the downtown core. And looking of how to approach parking, there are some opportunities that I'm familiar with that can be done. I don't believe there was a parking study ever done, or from my understanding, speaking with the planning department. But through the Economic Development Commission, I was hoping committee to provide some thoughts into doing one, the municipality doing one. It would require us to, in this particular situation, use a consultant to come in to do the study for us. But I guess the benefits of having that in place is then if there is going to be an exemption for parking in the downtown core, that will increase the opportunity for investment in the downtown area. Because now you have an exemption if council goes ahead and does that. The downside is, where are people going to park? They're going to be parking on the side streets. So there's going to be a balance of, having comments from the neighbors parking in front of their homes, but then you have the opportunity of having more opportunity investment in the downtown core because of this parking exemption. I am familiar with some municipalities, they have parking in lieu. That has to be included in our official plan. So basically what that is, they would be paying into a fund that would help support future land development or land purchases that we can have as a municipality. So that's something in more of a longer term, but that's also an option as well. So through the development committee, we're hoping to bring that to them. But there is going to be a cost associated with that to do that kind of a study in 2026.
Any further on that? It's a challenge. We've known it for years. And we just, we don't own much property as a municipality.
I guess my concern is that in a case, such as the zoning change that is going to take place and the requirements of the zoning change, it almost feels like it's not his problem, but it's sort of our problem. The other part to this is that when the development takes place on Main Street with the proposed building development, they're looking, I think the rendered drawings are showing anywhere from 18 to 21 units. So that's, if you have to have 1.5 parking spots per unit, where it's not going to work. We just know that already. So I don't know what the answer for that is, but I'm just concerned that we're not being proactive in the situation, so.
Through your worship, further to that, we can bring back a report as it relates to the parking and get some input from the county planning department as well, because we would get their input as regards to what are our options and pros and cons, and what kind of suggestions would you recommend for 26. So we can definitely bring back a report. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand the frustration. We run into it in some of these older downtown cores, and it's difficult to find parking. But yeah, I mean, I know Councillor Drillard's brought it up before, and I don't know what the result ever was. I guess I don't know if it ever came back about talking to the county about angle parking on Main Street, and if whether that would ever be permitted. There's exemptions in your bylaw, or you could create exemptions in your bylaw to allow for on-street parking instead of on-property parking. So I think there are lots of options that can be explored. We have a fairly large parking lot behind the doctor's office there that may be able to be expanded a little bit, or if it was done that some lines were put on it, maybe we could get a lot more parking over there. But yeah, I think, and I can't remember, but I do believe the province is almost mandating that we lower our parking requirements in our zoning bylaws in the near future. So that might be something that assists us, but yeah, there's always variances or minor amendments that we could allow for one-off situations. Now, yeah, all of a sudden you have a 20-unit building there, then that's difficult to totally relax it, but I think there's some good options that we could look at.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was under new business, that discussion. Any announcements? Nothing? Okay. Confirm proceedings. Tara, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that bylaw 2025-50 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the municipal council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay. Our future meetings are in front of you, and the last one, Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drulard, that the meeting of the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich closes at 6:30 PM. All in favor? And that's carried.
You said we'd be done at 6.
I wasn't expecting.